Hey guys, it's Melissa, and tonight we are going to talk about things no one told you about photography. But first, a couple of quick disclaimers. I am in a slightly different spot than I normally record these in, and you might hear like birds chirping. It's supposed to rain, so let's just cross our fingers and hope that things go smoothly technology-wise, because sometimes things can go awry on Instagram Live. So, like I said, tonight we're going to talk all about photography and things no one told you about photography. And just to give you a little bit of context, probably 7 years ago, I really got into photography. I started doing portrait photography. I did weddings, and really that was like, I've crocheted my whole life, but I really felt like photography was my first like creative hustle passion. So that's kind of where I am getting a lot of this from. And whether or not you use a fancy camera or your phone or whatever, I think that this will apply to a lot of you guys, and I'd love to hear your thoughts at the end as well. So let's jump right in. I'm challenging myself to make my Instagram Lives as brief as possible so we get straight to the points, and then these will be on YouTube afterwards. If you're not subscribed over there, it's just Woods and Wool on YouTube. And then also I always post a blog post after each Instagram Live, so you can find that at the link in my bio or woodsandwool.com if you haven't ventured over to my blog before. So let's jump right in. The first thing about photography is it's a whole new craft, and that's kind of the approach that we're going to take as we talk about these things that nobody ever told you. So photography is just like any other craft, whether you do embroidery, knitting, crocheting. Photography is literally a whole new craft. It's not just like you pick up a camera and then you're a photographer. It's a whole new art, it's a whole new craft, it's a whole new skill. So keep that in mind, and I'm just going to jump right in. We're going to go to the first point. The first thing, the biggest thing that no one ever told you about photography is, I have to apologize to you guys real quick because, like I said, I moved my Instagram Live spot, and I'm actually sitting like in our front door. Like, it's really awkward. So like as our neighbors walk by, if I'm like looking all over the place, it's because I'm probably making eye contact with people, and it's super awkward. But whatever, that's real life. So anyway, the number one thing that no one tells you about photography is lighting. Literally every single thing that comes down, that you can boil down about photography and about a good photo and what makes a good photographer, is lighting. If you can understand lighting, you understand photography, and you can take great pictures. You can look at a room and see where the best spots are going to be just based on the lighting. And it's not always where you would think. It's kind of, I think, like a trained eye that you get over time. So I know a lot of times people want to take pictures outside, like in the middle of the day, whereas after a little while, you'll kind of start to see that maybe it's too bright, or maybe you get harsh shadows, and you start to really understand the lighting. And I think, you can read a lot of blog posts about photography. You can try, just trial and error and see what works and what doesn't. But the sooner that you understand lighting, the sooner you will become a better photographer. So that's the first thing. Oh, those are my notes. Okay, I got them. Like I said, things are always super real on Instagram Live, so there's no like retakes on this. You guys see anything and everything that happens. So that could be one of many interesting things that happens tonight on here. Okay. So literally, lighting is photography. Photography is lighting. You can't be a good photographer or have good photos if you don't at least understand the basics of lighting. Like basics would be, you probably can't take a picture at midnight without any lights on, right? Like, we all understand that. So there's more to it. There's more learning opportunities. And the more you start to see it and understand lighting and how it works, the better you're going to be, the better your photos are going to be. Like right now, for example, the reason I had to move my spot was because it's super cloudy outside right now. It's not usually this dark at this time of night. And the seat that I normally sit in just wasn't bright enough. So you have to understand like how weather can change things, even if you're inside, and just in general how lighting will impact pictures. I feel like I'm totally getting better. My first photo sucked. Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes I look back at pictures and I'm like, man, that was great. Like, that was a great little photo shoot I did. Or sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, I've grown a lot since then. So I don't think you're ever like bad at photography. It's just at first you're maybe getting lucky and then you don't understand what's going wrong. And the sooner you start to understand lighting, the more consistently you're going to have good pictures versus like just having it be a luck thing. Also, I saw someone just asked if I take classes. No, I actually taught myself. Again, it was like 7 years ago, got super into photography, and I just read a lot of blogs online. I watched YouTube videos. I soaked up every piece of knowledge I could, and I would, in the photography world with weddings and things, they call it like second shooting. So there will be a wedding photographer and then there will be a second shooter, which is kind of like the second photographer for the day. So you get to follow around the first one and learn from them and shoot more candid pictures and kind of be like an assistant, but also a photographer. So I did some of that. Just anything and everything I could, any opportunity I had to learn and grow, I was all about it for like years. I still love it. It's just not like I want to do it full time or anything. So that was thing number one. Lighting is photography. Here's the next thing no one tells you. People always think that you have to have the latest technology, right? Like the iPhone X has like the best camera. It has like the most megapixels. Like, oh my gosh, it's so great. And like, yeah, they always make improvements, but if your camera or your phone is less than 5 years old, you're just fine. Like, you are just fine. My camera is 7 years old and I adore it. Now, it is a DSLR camera, so I feel like the longevity and the lifespan of it is a little bit better than a 7-year-old phone. But in general, if you're using an iPhone 5, 6, 7, 8, there is no 9, or an X, you're just fine. It's really not about your equipment. I saw a couple questions. I don't do my product shots. I hire someone. However, I would warn anyone who does this to be aware product shots are different than anything else. There's all kinds of photography too. There's portrait photography, landscape photography, even between like wedding and like newborn photography, family photography. I mean, it's really just like the maker world, right? So just because you can knit doesn't mean you knit garments, or doesn't mean you knit amigurumi, or doesn't mean you can do like brioche knitting. I don't know. I'm not really a knitter, so I guess I don't even understand what that is. But there's also all types of niches in any craft, and photography is just like that, where it has its own niches within it, but it's like a craft in itself, and it's like an art in itself. So if your camera or your phone or whatever you're using is less than 5 years old, you are perfectly fine. And whatever you learn, whatever you read in blog posts or watch on YouTube videos, when people are giving tips about photography, they generally apply whether you're using like any of those devices. Because like I said earlier, a lot of it boils down to lighting. So if you can understand lighting, that's going to help you no matter what you're taking pictures on. Phone, camera, whatever. So here's the next thing, and this is tough love. Sometimes I have to grab some water, hang on. Sometimes I feel like I have to really give a little warning if it's like slightly tough love. So this is one of those warnings. It's not like super salty or anything like that, but just be warned. So the next thing is your equipment, like I said, your phone, your camera, whatever. Your equipment does not matter if you don't know what you're doing with it. So if you don't know how to use something, it really doesn't matter what you're using. If I hand someone a DSLR camera, a really nice fancy camera, and they've never used one before and don't know what they're doing, they're going to take far worse pictures than they would if I just handed them a phone. So you're only as good as what you know how to do. So anyone can pretty much flip open an iPhone and take some pictures, right? So we can all pretty much get good at that once we start to understand lighting. Now, with other cameras, it's not like you just purchase the camera and you're a photographer and you're really good and like your pictures look super good. That's just really like not at all how it works. It's I keep going back to this, but I'll use an analogy now. A DSLR camera, I have mine here. If you guys don't know, it's an acronym, but basically you can just think of like the fancier cameras that you'd see like a wedding photographer, sports photographer, anybody like that using. They have the capability, oh my gosh, Austin just walked by outside and it scared me. I was like, whoa. Anyway, they have a much higher potential for better photos. But here's the thing. If I hand you a DSLR camera and you don't know how to use it, that's the same thing as handing knitting needles to somebody or a crochet hook to somebody who's never done it before. If they don't know what to do with it and they don't know how to use it, it's no good to them. So your equipment does not matter if you don't know what you're doing with it. Now, that's not to say you can't learn. Everybody can learn. And there's automatic modes in these cameras and things, but if you don't know what you're doing with it, you might as well just use an iPhone. And as a photographer, like when we go on vacations and stuff, there's a lot of times where I'm just not willing to tote around my camera and I don't want to worry about it. And I take pictures with my phone and they turn out beautiful and they're just fine. For my Instagram, I always use my camera because I love it. And photography has always been like a love of mine too. But like I said, photography in itself is a craft, and handing someone a camera does not make them a photographer. Learning how to use it does. Understanding lighting does. Those are the things that make a difference, and it doesn't matter what you're using if you don't know how to use it. Does that make sense? I hope that wasn't too tough. I just wanted to make sure that people understand that if you spend $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 on a camera, you might get it and you might be disappointed because no one told you that you actually had to learn how to use it. Like, it doesn't come out of the box just being this magical thing that gives you beautiful pictures. And side note off of that, you're probably not going to be happy with just the camera you get. You're probably going to want additional lenses or more lighting or like other things to help enhance your photography. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but like Austin decided to like start raking outside right now. Can you guys hear that? I swear. Today is just throwing all kinds of curveballs at me. It's awesome though because done is better than perfect, right? Took me years how to learn my DSLR well, yeah. And you're never done learning, literally never. Yep, he's just raking it up out there. So we have this tree in our front yard and it had like rocks all around it. So yesterday we picked up all the rocks, which were like, when there's like at least like 100 or more rocks around this tree. Oh my gosh, I think my neighbor's coming over. This is gonna be like really interesting. Okay, no, good. He's going inside his house. Okay, we're all good. Sorry, mini break here. But anyway, we were picking up all these rocks and we're basically gonna like put mulch around this big tree and stuff and plant some hostas. And so now Austin is raking around it, but it's making noise because I think he's hitting a lot of roots and some rocks that we missed. Also, we found like a dead squirrel in the tree. I'll have to show you guys at the end of the video. Not the actual squirrel, but like the tree I'm talking about. Sorry. Again, just keeping it real. But I swear, I have a couple more things we're gonna get to, and then I think we'll get off of this video. Okay. So the next thing, I know it's super cute, especially in the world of Instagram, to see candid pictures, right? So when people are like laughing, or when they're walking, or when they're like sipping tea, or maybe they're like in the middle of crocheting or in the middle of knitting. Those candid photos are always so magical and so pretty. And I would bet money, at least for my pictures, 100% of those are staged. Now, I would bet money that like 99% of them overall are staged, like they're fake, they're set up. And usually people have a buddy. So for me, I'm really lucky. Austin is like super helpful. And if you ever see a picture with me in it, he's the one that took that picture. And now I'm probably sitting there telling him exactly what I want it to look like. And I'm like, no, do it this way. Like, I want it from this angle. Or like, oh no, I don't like the way my hands look. But those candid pictures are pretty staged. And that's not to say it's like everything that you see on social media is fake. It's just if you're trying to make a certain aesthetic, get a certain feeling, show a certain experience, you're trying to like recreate something that like maybe that is what I usually look like when I'm crocheting, but I want to make sure that picture is exactly how I see it in my head and how I perceive that moment to look. So yeah, when I take those pictures, sometimes like if you saw the picture of me working on my Pebble Cardi I posted recently, I'm like sitting on the floor next to our door wall and like my legs were falling asleep, but that was where the best lighting was. So just know that don't compare all of your pictures to like someone else's Instagram feed, because their Instagram feed is like their best of the best of the best pictures that they've taken. And like when you see your own pictures, you're going to see like maybe hundreds of bad ones just to get one good one. And maybe that other person had hundreds of bad ones too. And maybe they're just fake too. But just, I mean, I wish that someone would have told me like, hey, a lot of this is fake. Like, don't feel bad about yourself or your life or your photography, because a lot of it out there is staged. So just keep that in mind. And the point of making it staged too, at least for me, is I always want people to be inspired when they see my Instagram feed. So I want them to feel like they want to knit or they want to crochet or they want to make something. And I think for me, beautiful pictures is the way that I try and get that message across. So it's not like I'm ever trying to like make my life look a certain way. I'm just showing a little sliver of my life, which is my world of crochet. And hopefully that can like inspire people when they see how beautiful handmade things can really be. I'm learning social media shots and slowly getting better just using my iPhone. But the elusive Candid is a unicorn. Yes, and I will share so much more with this, you guys, in the coming weeks and the Instagram lives I do. Just to give you a heads up, next week I'll be doing what I use. So a little bit more about my camera, about the lenses I use, some of the other things that I use. And then the following week after that, I'll be sharing how I use them. So if you guys followed me like all the way a year ago, more than a year ago, last summer, well, actually that's less than a year ago, whatever. A year ago, I did a whole Instagram live and showed you guys like step by step how I took my pictures for Instagram, and like I did like setups. I had Austin filming it all, so I wasn't just like sitting here talking to you guys. So 2 weeks from today, that's what we're gonna do. So I'll show you guys kind of too like how we do candids and get those to work out. And most of them like aren't that great, but one of them out of the bunch always is. So like lots of fake laughing happens. I'll like walk and then I'll back up and then I'll walk again, and we'll do that a bunch of times. So many things go into it, but I always know the result I'm going for. And I think that's important if you can like get that vision across and get that picture the way that you want it to be. Tricky to do shots when you knit solo. Yeah, and like if you use your phone and stuff, it can be a lot easier. But otherwise, you can always get a remote for your camera. I have one for mine, and makes a world of difference if you're doing pictures where, like family pictures where you all want to be in it, and then you just have the remote and you can click the button. That always is so nice. Oh my God, I'm so sorry if you guys can hear this. Austin is like making a ruckus today. Usually he's super quiet when I do Instagram lives, but he's like out and about, like doing things in our yard and stuff. So apologize for that. So true. Just did a shoot with my hubby, who is a photographer. He took over 100 photos. I think I like 12. Yeah. So I have looked at my pictures, just like on a monthly basis. And I usually take about 1,000 photos a month, for my Instagram. And I try and post one a day, but sometimes I don't. So I'm posting 25 to 30 pictures a month and usually taking about 1,000. And some of those pictures too will be like for patterns. So if I have a pattern release, I'll like dedicate a whole photo shoot to that pattern, which will be like anywhere from like 300 to 500 pictures for just enough content for like that pattern release. Oops, those emojis. I know what you meant. Some nice things are getting done. Yeah. It's funny, side note here. I was talking to my grandpa the other day, and he asked if Austin had mowed our lawn yet. And I was like, yeah, he just mowed it for the first time the other day because it's spring in Michigan, so our grass is growing, and that's really exciting. And my grandpa was like, yeah, so do you clean the house and stuff when Austin's outside working in the yard? And I was like, no. I'm like on Instagram. So it was just kind of funny. I don't know how you explain that to like your 80-something-year-old grandpa, but it was kind of funny. I was like, no, usually I'm working on like crochet stuff. I should be cleaning my house, but here I am. Okay, good. I'm glad it's not too loud. Okay, are you guys ready for the last thing? And then we're gonna be done. So if you have any comments or questions, get those ready, because I've got 9 minutes left on here, because I'm trying to do these all within 30 minutes or less. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, the last thing no one tells you is that editing a picture, whether you're using your computer or an app or anything, editing a picture should enhance your photos. Editing should never be to fix a photo. You cannot fix a bad photo. If it's a bad picture, it's a bad picture. There's nothing you can do about it. No amount of apps or filters or whatever software you're using is going to fix a bad picture. So if your picture is like crazy dark or blurry, or you didn't compose it very well, so like maybe your cropping wasn't good, and like a lot of times what happens is if I want like a full body picture, if Austin chops off my toes, which happens all the time when we take pictures, it'll be like half my shoe is cut off, and I'm like, oh man, like you can't really fix that. Editing should always be to enhance a picture. So if you feel like you're spending like hours and hours of time trying to save your pictures and edit them and make them look good, try and refocus your time on learning how to take pictures better. Learning what locations work really well. Learning where the best lighting is in your house. Like I know, for instance, right now where I'm sitting, this is not my favorite spot to sit, but when all else fails and it's super gloomy outside, I'm like, okay, that spot is gonna work just fine and it'll be okay. It's not my favorite, but I kind of know where those spots are, and depending on like where the sun is and the time of year, and if we have like, again, this tree in our front yard, when it's like fully covered in leaves and stuff in the summer, it actually creates a lot of shade because it's right next to our house, so then it's a lot less bright in here. So the sooner you start to understand all of those lighting things, the better pictures you're going to take, and then you don't have to worry about like trying to salvage a bad photo by like editing it, because normally if you do that, you overcompensate and then you make the picture look worse. And yeah, sometimes like you got to do what you got to do, and you just got to get a picture out there. But for the most part, just remember that like editing, it's not going to save you. You can make a good picture better with editing, you can enhance it, but it's never going to make a bad picture a good picture. So that's it. Those are the things. I don't know how many of them were. I'd say looks like 7 or 8 things we talked about. Those are the things that no one ever tells you about photography. And I'd love to know if you guys have other things to add into this. If there's things you wish someone would have told you about photography, leave a comment. Like, let me know what those things are. We'll hang out here for another couple minutes. And then, like I said, this video will be on YouTube probably in the next couple days, and then there will be a blog post up probably about a half hour after I finish this video, so you guys can just read through if you missed anything. Also, side note, I'm like so addicted to Hint waters. They're the best. Flavored water, if you like that. My neighbors are cruising by. All right, I don't think I'm seeing too many questions, AKA I'm not seeing any questions, but I told my husband he has to take a photography class with me so I can model. That's awesome. You know what's funny is that actually Austin second shot a couple weddings with me. So I explained in the beginning of this that I used to do like wedding photography and stuff. And so he was my second shooter for a couple weddings. And I remember I would like teach him things on the way to the wedding. Like, yeah. So he knows like a fair amount about photography too. I actually asked him before this, I was like, is there anything that you would add to this list that things people never tell you about photography? And his things that he said were, he said lighting. And he said that you need a buddy. And then there was one other thing he said that I forgot. I don't remember.
Look at your Instagram photos.
What'd you say?
Look at your photos on your phone.
Oh, okay. He said it was like looking at pictures on your phone to make sure that like the way that you edit it on your computer, whatever it looks like, is going to be the way that you want it to come across. So a lot of times I brighten up pictures a little bit extra for Instagram and stuff, more so than I would if I was like printing a photo or like framing something on my wall. I like things a little bit lighter and brighter. So look at it on your phone before you post it, if you're taking it on something that's not your phone. Cool. Okay. So I don't see any more questions. If you guys do have any, just feel free to send me a DM at any time, and I can either answer or we can incorporate it into a later topic. But next week, I'll be sharing what I use, exactly what I use it for. And then the following week, so 2 weeks from today, I will show you exactly how I use it. And this is the first time Austin is hearing this. He's like in the other room. Did you hear that? Austin?
What's that?
Did you hear that? Do you remember last summer when we did the Instagram live where you like followed me around and we showed everyone like how I staged all my pictures and then I took them?
Yeah.
We're gonna do that in 2 weeks from today. He said, woo. He's a really good sport. And I'm really thankful that he helps me out because I know he's like not excited. Anyway, so that'll be next week, what I use, and then the following week will be how I use it, if that makes sense. So too, if you guys have questions about photography, I always love too when people send me like, especially before these next couple of videos and blog posts, if you ever see a picture in my feed and you're like, how in the world did you take that? Just send that picture to me and we can literally go through exactly how I set things up and what things kind of look like in the background to make those pictures happen. All right, guys, that's everything. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, and I will see you guys next week.